You're listening to Online Pet Health Podcasts with Dr. Megan Kelly. Continuing education for veterinarian rehabilitation therapists. Learn more at onlinepethealth.com.
Hey Vet Rehabbers, it's another one of my Behind the Vet Rehab Practice podcasts, and this time I'm chatting to Robbie Porter and Dena Lodato. They opened the Research Veterinary Surgical and Rehabilitation Specialist Clinic in Covington, United States, and what's really interesting is that they opened it in the height of the pandemic. We discuss with them the challenges that they faced along the way, and they share with us how they have created this amazing practice culture and how this has contributed to the great success the clinic has had in its first year. Before we head over to their interview, a quick word from our sponsors. Choosing the right therapy laser and PEMF systems for your practice are big decisions, and that's why Response System has been helping to make that decision easier for over 35 years by offering Class 3B and Class 4 lasers, as well as a full line of PEMF products designed for both small animals and horses. All their systems are fully rechargeable and adapted for international grids. You can find out more at responsesystems.com. And also come and check out Response System at this year's Vet Rehab Summit. That's our annual online veterinary rehabilitation conference. This year it's on the 13th of November, and if you want to find out more information, you can go to vetrehabsummit.com. Now, if you have your own practice and you want some tips and advice on how to market it, we have a great download called the 12 Free Ways to Market Your Vet Rehab Practice. Online Pet Health members, you can just log into the members portal and go to our business basics area. If you're not a member, you can download it from our free area. Go to www.onlinepethealth.com/12 free ways and get your copy now. I repeat that, www.onlinepethealth.com/12 free ways. So over to Robbie and Dena.
Hey, Robbie and Dena, thanks so much for joining me.
Hey, how are you?
Thanks for having us.
Why don't you tell the listeners about each of yourselves and how you got into the field of vet rehab and veterinarian surgery?
You go first?
I'll go first. So I decided probably pretty young, I think I was like 6, that I wanted to be a veterinarian. So I worked really, really hard, got into vet school. And then probably between my first and second year, I got bit by the surgery bug and decided to torture myself for another 5 years to do surgery. And here I am. So
I wanted to be a veterinary surgeon, but I didn't want to work as hard as her. And I ended up seeing a need for rehab. That was back in the late 90s. And I wrote a little business plan to the surgeon that I was working for at the time. And she said, yeah, I think that's a great idea. And let me have a little money to start a service, and became certified, I think in 2003. I think I was part of the first class at UT.
I love you.
Awesome. So how did you two meet up? So how is this partnership? I mean, how did that happen?
When I finished vet school, I did a rotating internship, and I ended up going on for a surgical internship just to get a little bit more experience before I applied for a residency. And at the place that I did my surgical internship, they had Robbie and the rehab department, and that was circa 2009.
That sounds about right. 2009, maybe 2010. It was kind of a strange practice because it was a referral practice that was one of the first in our area to open, and it opened in a little strip mall. And they had one little bay. I think they might have had maybe 800 square feet. And then they bought another bay and then another bay. And then when I came about, there were no more bays on that side to get. And so my office ended up being, I don't know, about 200 yards or 200 meters away from the main hospital. And I had like 2,000 square feet to myself. And so a lot of the interns would come over when they'd get stressed out just to get away from the hospital.
Just to hide.
And that's actually, I think, when Dena and I first met.
Yeah, I hit a lot.
Yeah.
I hit a lot.
Okay, so fast track to today. I mean, you guys opened up this practice right in probably one of the worst times to open up a practice. I don't know whether it's a bad time or a good time, because I know that practices are like crazy busy at the moment. But you opened up in a pandemic. How has that been? I mean, what are the challenges that you guys have faced?
Looking at fear, facing it, and trying to move forward. I think that was probably the biggest challenge, is really that fear. Not really knowing if we were going to make it, if all our referral partners that we've kind of accumulated over the years would continue to refer to us instead of the place that we were at. Dena took out a huge loan. That was pretty scary, I think, for her. Wasn't as scary for me.
We don't talk about that. We don't talk about the loan.
But yeah, I mean, all that uncertainty, and then, can we do it? Can we make it so that it's safe for everybody, safe for clients, safe for employees, safe for us? I mean, those things have been a huge battle, I think.
Yeah, I mean, were you already so far down the road that you couldn't stop what you were doing? I mean, you'd obviously planned, we were opening, and you were in it. So you were like, well, we can't stop now. We got to just keep going. Like you said, go into that. I mean, we were all uncertain, right? Just generally uncertain what was going to happen. So, I mean, I can't imagine how scary it must have been to be opening up a new practice and not having the option to do anything but just keep going.
Yeah, I think by the time we had kind of come to the realization that we needed a new beginning, I'd probably come to you guys pretty early and was like, hey, I have this crazy idea. And you guys were like totally supportive and were like, okay, yeah, we're in. And then it got to the point where when, everything kind of really got serious with COVID, I think at that point we had already kind of, dreamt up this idea and this, I don't know.
I can't remember if you had signed loan papers yet or not.
I had not, no.
Yeah,
no,
so,
because the loan ended up getting pushed back because of COVID. That was probably the biggest struggle, was just trying to get the loan through with all in the middle of like the PPP loans and all that stuff. So that was probably the most frustrating, although it ended up working out well because we had a chance to really kind of go through building plans and everything with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that it worked for what we needed. So by the time we had signed it and, kind of gave everybody the green light, we had everything pretty much ironed out. So yeah, in a way that was probably a good thing.
It was
super stressful.
I think it was stressful though. I mean, that was one of my bigger stressors, was that, we had all these ideas and we had things written down and we wanted to move forward, but we were all just kind of sitting at a practice that none of us wanted to be at, and working and trying to make ends meet, and we weren't making ends meet, and it was very difficult. And so having all that uncertainty, and not having that loan go, hey, look, we can move forward. We can have something tangible to really hold on to.
It was probably about 8 months.
Yeah,
we were in limbo.
Yeah,
for a while. So, but it was also another thing that I think it kind of brought us. It kind of was almost like a cohesive thing, because we all were like, all right, we got to stick this out together. You know what I mean? So it kind of helped the camaraderie, because we all know that, if I was stressed out, I'd come, to you guys kind of talk me off the ledge, and kind of the other, you know what I mean? It was kind of like a back and forth kind of support thing. So
I think it did, like, draw our friendships and our relationships a whole lot closer too. I mean, anytime you struggle through something with somebody, then it ends up, being probably for the better. Yeah. And I think we are for the better. I mean, Dena and I are a whole lot closer than we ever have been, and, we talk about cases, and we're very, honest with each other about everything. It's actually a very, very good cohesive relationship.
Very open.
Yeah. Very, very open.
So how long have you guys been in practice now? So since the time you've opened?
January 1st, January 4th. I'm sorry, 4th. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
It was our opening day. So we are about on our 5-month anniversary. Yeah. And thank God we've been hopping, which is good. That was one of the things, you always worry about is, how is it going to be received, you know what I mean, by by clients and by referring veterinarians, and probably overall it's been super positive.
Yeah.
And it's also, the other thing too is it's fun coming to work, but feel like you're just hanging out with friends and just joking around, and what I mean, everybody's kind of, because there was a lot of people that ended up coming with us to open up everything, and it's fun to see everybody relaxed and joking and kind of goofing off. I mean, still doing your job, but goofing off and having fun again.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things that I've always loved about veterinary medicine, is that hospitals, in my opinion, are some of the most fun places to be. You all seem to have the same kind of ideas and wants and needs within work, and it's funny. It's wonderful. I mean, that's how we deal with the stress of sick animals and dealing with cases that are very, very difficult, and with that camaraderie becomes success for all your patients as well as your employees.
That sounds like you've got a great practice culture and dynamic there.
Yeah,
it's great. I mean, work should be a place that you love to go to, right?
absolutely.
We're here enough.
Yeah. I mean, you spend more time at work than you really do any other waking hour of your day.
Yeah.
And then if you're in medicine, you are probably thinking about it or texting or communicating with clients through the weekend too. And so it should be fun. It should be a good culture. It should be something that people do want to come to, and I think that's what we've really tried to kind of push through within this entire clinic.
Yeah, I think we've kind of come from toxicity, and that's the last thing that we want to have happen again. What I mean, is to regress to where you don't want to come to work and dread every day kind of thing.
One of the things I love, and I see this more often now, this combination of the veterinary surgeon and the rehab therapist, and this really coming together of this sort of multidisciplinary team. So I love that you guys have taken this approach. Dena, for you, was it when you were working with Robbie and you're doing your internship, is that when sort of rehab sort of became something that you sort of wanted to work with? Because there are a lot of surgeons out there that are not so open to rehab. They just think surgery and that's it. So I love it when I meet a veterinary surgeon that is so open and refers for rehab.
Well, when I was a veterinary student, they had started a rehab service or rehab department, where I went to school, and I kind of, so I kind of got a feel of a different, kind of approach. It was still pretty small, so we didn't do a whole bunch. So then when I started my surgical internship and saw more kind of what can be achieved, I had actually, at that point, I'd come to you because I was interested in getting certified, in rehab. And, throughout that year, like I said, I mean, just kind of, seeing what you can do to rehab these guys back to, pre-injury level of function and activity. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And then, like I said, it got to the point where when I had the opportunity to go for, my CCRP, I was gung ho, and I think it also helps to have kind of that broad vision of, hey, it's not just, you go in there and fix it. Like there's more stuff afterwards, in human medicine, that's how they always approach things. So I think that it's kind of an all around wise, kind of combination to, kind of fix. And then it's like, okay, well, now we, kind of just have to, kind of teach these guys how, that one, it doesn't hurt anymore, and two, hey, let's, kind of work on getting you back to where you were so that you're running around and, going out hunting season and, field trials and all that, jazz.
So, I mean, you obviously have the ideal situation where you're doing the surgery and then you get internal referrals to the rehab side of things. You mentioned that you had other referral centers. Robbie, are you getting referrals for rehab from other centers as well? Or is it mainly coming internally and referrals for surgery and then directly to you through the internal surgical department?
There's probably about 4 other board certified surgeons in our area, and most of them refer. Not every single case, but they refer the difficult, horrible ones a lot, which is fine with me. I'll take those. And then we have a fairly large referral base that sends stuff to us. And I think within opening up this practice, I've seen more and more. It used to be that, it was probably about 95% in-house referral. And now there's probably a good 30% that are being referred, not from Dena, which is really wonderful. I get to see a much more wide range of things that way.
Yeah.
And, we've been, seeing some pretty complicated things, and that's really good for me. I like complex problems to solve. That's what I'm good at. And I think that's why I'm in it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you sound like you guys are quite busy at the moment.
We are. The
Thank God.
The door to the office is open several times just within the few minutes that we've been talking, and that's okay. It's a good problem to have. It is a problem sometimes when, you're just nonstop. But one of the things that I think was a big challenge within every other clinic that I worked with was that rehab was always a second thought. And, it kind of put you wherever you'd fit. And you usually only had like one room. And so, the real estate it wouldn't be able to allow you to see any more than about maybe 12 patients a day. And that was it. Where here, Dena was like, well, one half of the hospital is going to be rehab and the other half is going to be surgery. And she literally just split it down the center. And that has really, really worked because we have a separate hydrotherapy room. We have a dry therapy room. We have a completely separate kennel. We have another kennel. We have space. And even though our hospital isn't huge, it's utilized very efficiently. And we can easily see, 30, possibly 35 patients a day.
Wow.
Which is huge. It's hard when you see, over 20 and you're rushing through and things like that. You're not rushing through like treatments, but you're rushing from one patient to the next patient to the next patient. And I think that's really made this a success too, because I think it's very difficult to be a rehab practitioner and actually make money at it too. And I think that's a big struggle that a lot of therapists go through. But you can't like overcharge for your therapies because people don't come. And usually the real estate doesn't allow you to see any much more.
Yeah. Space is always such a big problem for us. So let's chat about your property now. So you found a property and then you renovated. And sometimes, if there's sort of fixed walls and things, you're restricted to whatever size. And I hear so many times, like somebody's like tried to squeeze an underwater treadmill into a room and then it's not ideal. What is the layout? And Dena, it's wonderful that you gave Robbie half the hospital.
You're welcome.
Because we need space. We need space to do our work.
Absolutely. Yeah, we kind of found that out early on. And I think it got to the point, once again, going back to where we were in limbo for those 8 months, we would, come to the building, the poor real estate agent, we'd call her up every weekend and be like, hey, so we have to get back in. And we kind of got to the point where we were taping stuff on the floors, to visually be able to lay it out. And I think that ended up being, critical, because there was times where we're like, we're not going to fit what we thought we were going to fit in here. We need to move this wall that way. But yeah, no, I knew we had talked probably in the very beginning about how much ideal space, we needed. And I mean, we've made the building work and as efficient as possible, to make sure that we have a good flow in addition to space.
And I think one of the big things about that is really Dena. I mean, Dena, we had maybe about 6 core people that, have been our starting staff. And she wasn't one of these people that said, hey, look, I took out, this loan, I'm going to make all these decisions. We'd have Saturday meetings together and we'd all talk about, okay, well, how much do we need to put here? And how much do we need to put there? And where is this going to go? And where is that going to go? And what's going to make people happy? And how is this workflow really going to flow?
Yeah.
And, she's always been very, very open about that and very humble. I mean, she's literally one of the most humble people, but also surgeons that I've ever met. And that makes her a much, much better person, I think, than in a lot of things, really.
Yeah, I can't do my job without these guys, period. I know that for a fact.
And I can't do my job without her. There's just no way, So I think it's become just a wonderful team and a very good team approach. We all kind of know where we're coming from and what our goals are and what we want. And when we run into problems, we talk about it very easily and solve those problems. Even if those problems hurt people's feelings and things like that, we come to some sort of conclusion that, well, this is the way it's going to work for the group.
Yeah, I love it that you involved the whole team in those kind of decisions, because it also makes them really feel a part. And it's probably why you have the practice culture and that dynamic team that you have there. So are there any regrets that you have with regards to the flow and the design that you made? Is there anything that you think, oh, we should have done this, if we'd done this, that might have been better?
We should have bought the building next to us.
Should have gotten another building with it. So we had to.
I actually had a freak out moment several weeks ago where like every kennel was full, every corner was full with an X-pin. There was a lot of animals in the hospital and my book was like pretty much double booked. And I was like, look, we need to start planning for another building space now. And our office manager, Mike, I'm trying to explain it to him and he's like, okay, yeah, I guess we do need to start planning these things. And so we started planning and hopefully we will start expanding very soon, even though we barely have numbers to, really go, oh yeah, this is definitely concrete. This is going to happen. There's still a little uncertainty there because there's just not enough time number, But I think it's been working out fairly well. And I think that expansion will happen in due time, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest things. We probably should have bought that building next door.
Yeah.
So is there space to expand? I mean, have you got an option potentially to expand?
The building next door.
Yeah. So there's like a U-shaped medical complex basically. And so I think there's one, two, three, probably about 9 buildings total that make a nice U, and we're in the down part of the U, and there's one building right next to us that's identical to this one as far as floor plan goes for the most part. And our idea would be to go ahead and renovate that and put surgery completely over there. So that building would pretty much be a huge clean room where you wouldn't go in without booties or anything else. And then rehab and rechecks and initial visits would still stay within this building, within the exam rooms and so forth. So they'd have a completely dedicated building. We'd have a completely dedicated building as well.
It's amazing after 5 months that you guys are already talking about expanding. So, I mean, that's great. It's showing that, whatever you're doing right. That's great. So tell me about the loan and the equipment. So it's such a big investment. I mean, just to renovate and get it to where you want it, then we have all that equipment. And you must have had surgical equipment, anesthetic equipment, x-ray equipment. You guys have got a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, which is awesome. I want to chat about that. Underwater treadmill laser. Sure. So, tell me about that. Are there, is there anything that you think now you still need to get? Any regrets to any of those, buying any of that equipment? Let's go through all about the loan and all that, all the modalities and everything that you needed.
It was, I will give total props to Mike when it comes to the number. He's the numbers guy. And he sat down and sourced everything and got quotes and pretty much ran everything and came up with one lump sum, which was nauseating to me when I heard. I was like, are you joking? So, finally getting kind of a bank that would, that wasn't, consumed with PPP loans. And then getting kind of numbers from them as to, down payments and everything. That was probably, that was the most nauseating time. Just kind of figuring out, kind of what we needed to do. But it was one of those, and Mike, he's fully supportive, and he was like, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. Then probably when we got the loan and finally gave the go ahead, we had about 8 weeks to renovate, to get all of the equipment in, and get ready to literally open the doors. So it went 8 weeks from having the keys to then opening. And that was probably the 8 weeks of pure chaos. The contracting company, we'd kind of given them, they were aware of the whole situation and why we were on such a timeline, and they worked with us. But yeah, probably the last 2 weeks, it was like stuff was coming in, stuff was getting installed. We were, you know what I mean? It was like, it looked like an anthill, for a while. And there was still some stuff that when we opened, we still didn't have. We had the construction trailer out front still, or the construction dumpster. And, owners were, we were like, hey, sorry, we're still opening. And they were very understanding. They were happy to, be able to come in and do everything. But yeah, like I said, the coordinating, getting everything installed, because you also had, like, for the hyperbaric chamber, you had to have all the oxygen plumbed in, and then the underwater treadmill, you needed to have all the plumbing. So it was probably a little chaotic and a little bit walking in and kind of seeing all of this, but it ended up working out where everybody just kind of, even though it looked like pure pandemonium, there was organization to it, and it came together.
I think it really ended up almost being like, a reality show on renovation or something like that. I mean, there were times where we were here, pretty much all night long and patching small holes, or, just painting, or trying to install a bunch of little things. There's so many details in renovation that a lot of them do go overlooked, and, contractors will only do so much. And, we were at a point, I think, for the last, or the 3 days up to opening, I don't think we really left. We went home and slept, and then came back and just worked our butts off scrubbing floors or whatever else that just needed to be done. But that, I think, also is part of that struggle that has allowed us to live what we're doing right now, and see the success that we've seen in the last 5 months.
And it was one of those where, even though it was really hard work and it was stressful, everybody came and helped. You know what I mean? Even though it wasn't necessarily like, hey, we're going to give you a paycheck next week. They were like, no, we're good. You know what I mean? Like, just, we're here, tell us what we need to do, and we'll, there was computer training, for the medical records and everything. It was literally, there was probably about 3 days where we had the entire team that we knew we were starting with. So it was probably about 10 to 12 people, split up between 2 rooms, so that we were out of the contractor's way, but we all had laptops learning how to do, you know what I mean? And we had receptionists here for the 2 weeks prior to opening, scheduling appointments, you know what I mean, kind of thing. And yeah, so we're all sitting there in like our pajamas, you know what I mean? Because we're like, we just rolled out of bed, sitting here answering phones and getting everything set up. So yeah, it was HGTV should have us for the next renovation.
Yeah.
We'd be a hit, because it was pretty comical at times.
Okay.
It's so different to, like, the normal progress normally, like when you have a clinic, it's like you start off as a mobile clinic, and then you find a space, and you like, so when you go into like purpose, like build, renovate, whole team of 12 people come in, you don't like have all those operation manuals, because the operation manuals, right, they develop over time. Then you employ somebody, and then you're like, all right, I start creating systems, and this is how you do things. And then somebody else comes, and then you teach them. And so those kind of things build up over time and over experience. Like, this didn't work, now we do this. But you guys had like 12 people like start one day. I mean, I can't even imagine how you actually got all that, and how it actually all worked. To try and think, about the operations and all those kind of things. Obviously, having worked in a practice before, but it's different when it's not your own. When you work somewhere else, you know, you have an idea, but I'm sure there was a lot of things that you forgot about.
I think you're
Can you
spot on. Yeah.
share anything with us that if you think in the first few days that was just absolute chaos, like you thought, oh my gosh, we didn't think of this?
I think I had a lot of worry just about clients that couldn't find me, you know, or, you know, needed appointments, but we didn't have an appointment book, you know, didn't have the computer system like up yet, but we were trying to literally pencil people in. Hey, look, yeah, so we'll see you exactly here.
We had a notebook with a pencil. That was our appointment book for those 2 weeks because we didn't have the computer program yet.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's very difficult. I mean, as far as like responsibilities to the community. You know, I mean, both of us have, you know, or feel that responsibility and know that, you know, there's patients out there that we need to see or have seen and need to see again, you know, and not being able to see them. I mean, we were not practicing for 2 weeks and it felt horrible. Felt absolutely horrible.
And that was probably the other thing, was trying to kind of coordinate, hey, when, you know what I mean, do we give notice at, you know, the practice that we were at to be able to not have a lag in service, because we were pretty sure that when we gave our notice, we were going to be told, don't come back, which is what happened. So we tried to kind of anticipate that and try to at least, you know what I mean, kind of give enough time to be able to, okay, well, if we're down for, you know, this amount of time, you know, what is the least amount of time that we need to be down to be able to still continue, you know, seeing our original, you know, patients, and then also being able to kind of reach out and let everybody know, hey, this is where we're at now. And
ethically do that. And that was a challenge. That was a real challenge to be able to manage those people, manage those patients, manage, you know, the people that were coming with us. All those things were very, very huge hurdles, emotionally and ethically. I think we did a pretty good job at it. I don't think we upset too many people by doing it. And I don't think anybody died. We were a little worried. All those things seemed to just kind of dissipate, and we just, you know, kept running as any other clinic would. And I don't think we've had any real negative backlash or anything else like that through this whole process on that side of things. So, you know, struggle, but we're here.
Yeah, I mean, well done. It sounds to me like a challenge, and not one that I would want to take on.
Right?
Let's chat about the hyperbaric oxygen chamber. Now, was that one that you had at did you have that modality at the previous clinic that made you want to buy that? Or was that something new that you just thought, we need to have this?
We had it at the other clinic, and we actually had a bigger one. And, you know, seeing kind of the results of what it can do to help and be supplemental to surgery and rehab, I was kind of blown away. In the beginning, I was a little like, really? But I was thoroughly impressed. So when we were looking at, you know, that was one of the things I was like, no, we have to have a chamber. And we actually got a little bit of a smaller one, and that way we can, because the other one, there was a lot of like wasted space, you know what I mean? So that was one of the things that we learned, you know, kind of that's like, well, you know what I mean? We can get a smaller one and still put the same dogs in it, but have, you know what I mean? Kind of less waste and go through less oxygen and still have the same results. This one actually, I think is better too, because it has the little humidifier too.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the chamber.
I had left a practice where Dena and I had met. I had left that practice because the last practice that we were at had one of those. And, you know, I'm always super interested in neuro rehab, and it really is quite the benefit for that. I mean, all our patients, all our surgical patients go through one every single.
Yeah, they automatically get one complimentary with every procedure.
So that happens. But then, you know, when we have those difficult neuro cases that aren't getting better, or that, you know, you really want to throw everything at, I mean, it really does make a huge difference in that. Being able to get oxygen to tissues that barely have any oxygen, like nervous tissue, really does make a huge difference in their recovery. I don't care what anybody says, it works very, very well. It
And are
does.
your clients quite open to it?
I'm sorry?
Your clients, are they quite open to it?
Yeah, I think they are.
It's not sort of mainstream, right?
Yeah, except that, people have always heard about it, so it's not like laser therapy where they're like, laser therapy, what? They're more like, oh, hyperbarics. Yeah, they use that where in diving or something. They have some idea about why it works or why it's been there. And there's actually a lot of research on it, which makes it even better. So clients are super receptive to it, and they actually feel, I think it's one of those things that kind of separates us from other clinics, because they feel like we really are trying to give them every possible chance for their animal to get better. Yeah. And I think when they see that, they realize the value in it and say, okay, yeah, let's do more, or, whatever we need to do.
Let's move on to the marketing of the practice. I mean, the fact that you guys are so busy now, did you have a marketing plan or strategy that you had in place in your business plan, or has it been something that you've just sort of been winging and it seemed to work out?
No, this is actually the fourth veterinary hospital that I've branded, and so I didn't have a written plan, but I did have a plan in my head, and I knew all the things that we needed to do. And I did have some lists and so forth that was going down. And, we kind of hit the ground running so quickly that I've barely been able to even touch base on a lot of the things that I still need to get done. But I think we're branded very well. I think Dena came to me even before we opened and had a wonderful tagline that I looked at her kind of funny about. But then as time went on and as we opened and I started to implement that tagline into videos and all our marketing things, it really started to make sense, and it made the whole plan actually really well. So she points at me and says, hey, yeah, he's the one that markets, but in reality, like, she came up with the name, and I think the name is wonderful. It's resurgence, right? It's bringing on a new beginning, and the tagline is new movement, new beginning, new life. Right? Yeah.
New movement, new life, new beginning. Close enough.
Close enough. I always had to look at it for some reason or another. We can edit that one out. But in reality, it really is. They come to Dena when they can't move, and then they come to me and we give them new movement. And then their life becomes better. And then they begin a whole new venture. And I think that's a really powerful thing. I think that's what I've always created in the hundreds and hundreds of videos that I've made in veterinary medicine. I think it's always about a struggle that the animal has overcome. And sometimes that struggle even entails like the therapist and the staff and the owners and everything involved. Because a lot of those cases, as take sometimes months to get better. And you have to have kind of faith that, what you're doing, right? That your staff knows what they're doing, that the owners have faith in you to get them better, and that the animal continues to be motivated throughout that process to get to that place. So I think using that as a whole idea, I think is super important. I think any business that isn't really telling their story or is not really being honest about that story isn't doing it right. I think if you can be honest about your story and tell people, hey, look, this is what our business is about, and do it in a story form, then people get it. It's really myth, right? Everything that we kind of look at is like a narrative. That's how we learn. That's how we learn from our mistakes. We create, stories about our lives, and, we continue that story, I hope, as our lives grows.
Your story really comes to life in your social media. So I was on your Facebook page looking at some of your videos, and I love, the real life kind of videos that you have there. So you've got there's the patient parades, and it's like following Dena like in to have a look at all their patients. And I really, it's such a great way to showcase what you're doing in a non-salesy way, right? It's not really marketing, but you are like, you created them for that. but it's actually just like, hey, this is our life. This is what I do every day. And people are interested in that. They love it because they get to see, you know, personalities and the animals and a little bit behind the scenes of what's happening. Because often, if you think about it, that's shut off to them. You know, the hospital, the hospital where the cages are and all of that, they're not really allowed in there unless they're like visiting, you know, their dog that is like terminally ill or whatever, you know, like we keep them away from that. So giving them that sort of view of that is so interesting to them. And I mean, I can see from your views, people love it. They absolutely love it. So, I mean, looking at is your main strategy like around social media and videos, and who's creating the videos? Is that you, Robbie?
Yeah, that's definitely me. I think a lot of our is video. I think video, or at least, I mean, before I went into veterinary medicine, and a lot of people don't know this, but I was actually a fine arts major, and that's what I studied. That was way before digital anything. And I took like half a photography class. But later on in life, when digital cameras became super awesome, and they did, kind of mid 2000s, they started to be able to do a lot more things than, we could do before. And we could produce videos for, we didn't need a whole production crew or something like that to do it. And anybody can do it. I mean, really, they can. But learning how to tell that story within taking that video as well as editing it is kind of a challenge, and something that I actually really love to do. And Dena's always been very supportive of that. And I think at some point in time during this whole planning process, we were all joking around, and I don't even know who came up with the whole Mardi Gras concept. Do you know what Mardi Gras is?
Yeah.
So we have Carnival or Mardi Gras here.
Yeah.
The colors of it are purple, green, and gold. And so everything in the New Orleans, Louisiana area, you see purple, green, and gold, you think Mardi Gras. And so we decided to go ahead and brand those as our colors. And, during Mardi Gras, you have parades. And every morning, we'd go over cases and we'd parade animals through the rehab department. And that started to become like, oh, wow, we're having patient parades. And so it was usually a really kind of funny time too. Like, rounds were never like really strict academic rounds. It was laughing, it was playing with patients, it was, caring for them and having fun with them like they would at home. That's what makes them feel more comfortable. And it also allows us to really evaluate how they're moving better, right? I mean, if you stick a dog on a leash on a slick floor that's just had orthopedic surgery, it doesn't walk, right? It doesn't wanna. But if you put them in a room where, the floor is good and not slick, where they can stand and walk and try to eat some chicken or some treats and, get pet and get loved, that's a completely different animal, literally. And they show you a completely different side of themselves in recovery. And so I think that whole idea of patient parades really came about before all of this. And I think we were open a whole month, and we thought about it. And then one evening we were talking about, oh, well, our success is huge. We see so many patients and we want to show that success. But in reality, you really don't want to show specific numbers to social media or, your competitors either, on how much of the market share you really have. And so I sat up one night and I did the first one, and I was like, wow, this is really real and fun. Excuse me.
Don't die now.
And, ever since then, I try to sit up, once a month or so overnight, looking over hours and hours and hundreds of gigabytes of footage to find those wonderful pearl moments that, really communicate that fun, wonderful time of rounds, which are patient parades.
Yeah, I think it's kind of evolved too. I know the first one, was kind of subdued. I think the last one really got a little bit goofy. Yeah, it got a little bit more, kind
almost out of hand.
It's pretty much every day. That's how the last one, like, I think the last one, like we got, like I said, it got a little bit more, kind of goofy. But that's probably, that's every day kind of how You know what I mean? Like, I think that's kind of a good representation
It
of
represents our
how,
culture.
Yeah, of how we just kind of approach everything every day. And that's patient parade every morning. And then Robbie comes with his camera and he's following you. And like, I remember there was one time I turned around, you were like right there. And that's when I was like, this is awkward. So yeah, that is every day. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like a camera or, kind of, acting for that's literally every day. I think the only thing that we act is we try to kind of tone down some of the topics sometimes.
Yeah. But I think that's the other part of all this, is that the entire team is like for it.
Oh yeah.
And I've run around a lot of hospitals with cameras, and a lot of people run from the camera, and they don't want the camera in there, and they're worried about what they're saying or how they look or anything like that. But I think everybody here understands that, I'm only showing their best sides. I'm trying to say, hey, look, this is great about you. We aren't going to show the big zit on your face, or we aren't going to, show you messing up whatever you're trying to say or something like that. Those things, we aren't there to embarrass anybody or anything else like that. And we aren't there to embarrass the patients or, make them look bad either.
No.
We're there to, show the fun, the fun behind the scenes, the good, the love, the new movements, the new beginnings, and the new lives.
I think clients really like it too, when they can see, one, their pets on Facebook, you know what I mean? So everybody likes that. But two, just to kind of see, literally how we treat every patient is like, kind of like our own. The patient parades I really like, because they're completely candid. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's acting for the camera. Like, that's literally our life every day.
I think also because you do it every day, you record every day, it just becomes a way of life. Like, I saw that one where you were like, this is awkward, but that's the nice part about it, because it's like real, right?
Yeah,
very real.
Put the camera out and say to everyone, okay, we are doing this video now for Facebook, and then everyone's on guard. But if you're just filming every day, they're just like, oh, there's Robbie again with this camera, just get on with it. And one thing I know, like, about looking at teams, working in teams is so difficult. And I've worked in a lot of veterinary practices where things have just been, like you said, like sometimes there's toxic practices. And I think the biggest thing for me is that everyone has a common goal, and it's when one or two people don't have that goal, that's when things get toxic. But it really sounds like your team has that goal. I mean, everyone works together for that one goal in mind, and that's the best outcome, and to do the best they can for their patients. So well done. Yeah, it sounds like you guys have really created a great practice culture.
Thanks.
We're having a lot of fun.
We are. Stressful fun.
Stressful fun.
Yeah. So, Robbie, I was looking back, and the last time, we had you on the podcast, 2018, episode 20, we were talking therapeutic exercise programs. It was June 2018. And we've had you to lecture at Online Pet Health for us, all about canine conditioning. Are you still, obviously this must be still a big part of your rehab programs, doing your exercises. It's something that you're known for in our field.
Yeah, it is. It's a huge part, because, I've spent many years trying to figure out a true exercise system, and also a training system that can pair with it. And that's been exponential in opening this practice, because we have 4 CCRPs here. And, yes, they have, good basic knowledge and so forth, but if we aren't all doing the same exercises and training it the same ways, then, I can't go to Brazil and go teach and leave patients just at bay, right? But I can here. I can leave them, and, the other therapists are very easily, can catch up just on, the crazy notes that we write, and, the names that we give these exercises and sequences of actions, right? And that really does help. It's helped solidify the communication between us as colleagues, but also practitioner to patient. And owners see that very quickly and easily as well, because they know if they don't see me, they see somebody else, and they're doing the exact same thing I was, and maybe even better. And all that, I really miss going out of town. I miss my travel. I miss teaching people in person. and I've been vaccinated now for several months. I've done one in-person workshop last month. I'm actually going to Brazil for fun, in July, beginning of July. And then I go back to Brazil in November. There isn't exact dates yet, but those dates will be up either on my personal webpage, robpossible.com, or the person who hosts me, which I'll give you a link to a little later on or after the podcast. I can send it to you. But that really excites me. I miss teaching, because teaching allows you to kind of test everything that you actually do. And I think in our field, we're still innovating and trying to figure out what really works, and what works on a grand scale. But if you don't go around, trying to teach it and trying to explain it to people, then it doesn't get anywhere. And I think one of the most awesome things that I've been able to do is go to Brazil because it's a completely different language. I don't know much Portuguese. It's a pretty hard language to learn, but I know enough to be able to teach. And that has been exponential in me understanding exactly what I am teaching and what I'm doing. And I look forward to going back, and I look forward to doing more this upcoming year.
Yeah, I mean, it's been dreadful, obviously, with COVID. All our in-person conferences, any workshops or any learning, it's been so restricted. So it's nice that things are opening up a little bit. I know here in South Africa, we've been wanting to try and get you out. It's just the cost to get you out to here. It's just so expensive. But we're holding thumbs that at some time, we won the IAVRPT, the next conference after Cambridge. Is happening in Cape Town. So we put a bid in and we got that. So when that's happening, your name, I know, is on the list. We're trying to get you here for the conference and hope that we can double up on a workshop for the South African vet rehabbers. Dena and Robbie, it's been so wonderful chatting to you, and I've loved hearing your story. I just want to say a huge congratulations on everything that you've achieved over 5 months. Out of all the years of doing this podcast, I don't think I've heard somebody who's got so far in 5 months, created the amazing culture and dynamic that you have in your team, and already planning on expanding. So I wanted to ask you, you must have had a 5-year plan. I think you've fast tracked, in 5 months, your 5-year plan. So you're probably way ahead, and you probably haven't even thought about your 10-year plan. When that's probably going to be in a year or two's time. But good luck for everything, and just keep doing what you're doing. It's really amazing.
You too, Megan. Thank you very much for having us.
Mm-hmm. Cheers, guys. Have a great day.
You too.
You too.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button so you get notified every time I load a new podcast. I'm here every week talking to vet rehab therapists from all over the world about all things vet rehab. For more information about continuing education for vet rehab therapists, you can go to onlinepethealth.com. I'd like to thank you for listening to this podcast, and of course, thank our sponsors, Response System. They are as passionate about therapy lasers and PEMF equipment as you are about veterinary rehabilitation. They would love to answer any questions you have, so please feel free to reach out to them at responsesystems.com, or you can email lisa@responsesystems.com.